The teacher was Mrs. Razin, and for 4 years in high school, she mesmerized us. Not with facts and dates, but with the people who made history happen.
Mrs. Razin, alei shalom, who was all about differentiated instruction before differentiated instruction was such a popular term in education.
I never could have imagined being so excited about learning history and how she tied what was happening in the world to what was happening in the times of the Torah. It was inspiring.
She taught us history as a Shakespearean tragedy and sometimes a comedy. In her classes, we learned about how Jewish history meshed with world history, how the complicated machinery of the Roman Empire brought about the destruction of the Second Temple, how the story of the Marranos played out against the Spanish Inquisition. We learned that the pogroms couldn't have happened without the complicity of the Russian czars.
The teacher I remember the most is Mrs. Razin. Mrs. Razin taught us to think independently. I remember I got assigned for a debate to argue that the bombing of Hiroshima was correct, and I remember going home and crying my heart out and talking to her about it the next day, and by the time I had finished the debate, I had convinced myself that dropping the atomic bomb on Hiroshima was correct.
We became privy to Mrs. Razin's stories about growing up in Boston and living in New York. There were many anecdotes about her husband Stuart and her 3 children, Ellie, Yonina, and Gidon. Stories which somehow always tied in to what we were learning in history.
Okay, I'm going to talk about Mrs. Razin, alei shalom, because she was just an incredible person. I think about her. She wrote a curriculum for the school, and it was history, but from a Jewish perspective.
One of the best teachers that I had at Olpana was Mrs. Razin. Actually, she was probably one of the best teachers I've ever had.
In my mind, teaching itself is a commitment. First and foremost, it is a commitment to our students to give them the support, the chizuk, as they ask the serious questions about life and reach for answers. Not glib ones, but thought-out approaches that can offer them a framework with which to face life. Students must be taken seriously as they wrestle with the issues and obstacles, and we teachers have the privilege and obligation to be there with knowledge, understanding, and support. Support may be engaging in a conversation on the issues raised in class, or even a personal issue, or discussing a helpful skill. Teaching is a moment of intellectual engagement. Every moment is a chance to learn, not only an interesting detail of what was or is, but to consider, how does it fit in? Why is it important? How can that understanding that we together forge help us understand our human nature, or the world in which we live, or even how to shape a better world, a wiser, more sensitive world that acts responsibly to the common humanity with whom we together bear the Tzelem Elokim, the image of God.